The first month of every year is not just a number on a calendar, it is a spiritual womb. It carries within it the codes, the permissions, and the patterns that often speak for the remaining months. Many people wait for things to happen to them in January, not realizing that January is waiting for them. It is waiting for a response, a posture, a level of spiritual intelligence that can unlock what God has already embedded within it. When God gives a year, He does not distribute it randomly. He packages seasons, opportunities, warnings, and blessings within time itself, and the wise are those who discern time and know what to do. Day 8 of the first month is not ordinary. In Scripture, the number 8 represents new beginnings, covenant activation, and transitions into dimensions that were not accessible before. Circumcision in the Old Testament was on the 8th day, not by coincidence, but as a spiritual statement that after completeness, God introduces something higher. 7 represents completion, rest, and cycles, but 8 speaks of transcendence, of stepping beyond what has been finished into what has been prepared. When you arrive at day 8, you are not merely counting days, you are standing at the threshold of a new spiritual season. There is a blessing assigned to beginnings, but there is a greater blessing assigned to how you handle beginnings. Many believers pray for open doors, yet they mishandle open seasons. They ask God for mercy, yet they ignore divine instructions. The first month is not only about prayer, it is about alignment. Alignment is what allows blessings to rest without resistance. When alignment is absent, blessings become burdens, and favor turns into frustration. That is why some people receive good things from God, yet they are unable to sustain them. The best blessing of the first month is not money, though provision is important. It is not even opportunities, though doors matter. The best blessing is clarity. When God grants a man clarity, He has given him speed. When God gives a man understanding, He has preserved him from unnecessary battles. Many struggles in life are not because Satan is strong, but because direction is missing. Clarity positions you to invest your energy correctly, to pray accurately, to build intentionally, and to wait patiently when necessary. On day 8, there is a call to step into spiritual consciousness, to rise above survival Christianity and step into purposeful engagement with God. This is the point where you must ask yourself serious questions. What is God saying about this year? Not what social media prophets are saying, not what trends are predicting, but what is the Spirit of God communicating to you personally? God does not speak in bulk. He speaks in patterns, impressions, convictions, and sometimes deep unrest. Ignoring His voice at the beginning will cost you accuracy in the middle. Many believers enter a year with prayer points but without discernment. They pray generically, yet destiny requires specificity. The heavens respond to alignment, not noise. When Elijah prayed for rain, he did not shout endlessly. He aligned himself with the word of the Lord. There are prayers you pray not to inform God, but to position yourself. Day 8 is a day of positioning, a day to recalibrate your spirit, to reset your priorities, and to confront areas where complacency has crept in unnoticed. The first month tests your seriousness. God watches how you handle beginnings because beginnings reveal intentions. The way you start often reveals what you value. If prayer is postponed to later months, it means prayer is not truly important. If discipline is delayed, it means comfort is still ruling. Spiritual laws do not respect good intentions, they respond to deliberate actions. The kingdom rewards those who seek first, not those who seek eventually. There is also a blessing of consecration tied to this season. Consecration is not punishment, it is empowerment. When you separate yourself unto God, you are not losing pleasure, you are gaining power. Many people want spiritual authority without spiritual boundaries. They want results without restraint. But the anointing flows through vessels that are available, not vessels that are distracted. Day 8 invites you to lay certain things on the altar, not because they are sinful, but because they are excessive. Anything that competes with your sensitivity to God must be questioned. The first month also carries prophetic patterns. What you tolerate here, you will manage all year. What you conquer here, you will dominate all year. That is why small victories in January are more powerful than big victories in December. When you break laziness early, you gain momentum. When you break fear early, confidence builds. When you break distraction early, focus becomes natural. Spiritual warfare is easier when fought at the gate than when enemies have already settled inside. God often gives instructions that look simple, yet they are loaded with consequences. Obedience in this season may not feel dramatic, but it is deeply prophetic. Sometimes the instruction is to pray consistently. Sometimes it is to study, to forgive, to give, to withdraw from certain associations, or to step out in faith. What makes these instructions powerful is timing. Obedience outside of timing can still be obedience, but obedience within timing releases acceleration. Day 8 also represents responsibility. New beginnings come with new expectations. You cannot enter a new season with an old mindset. God will not pour new wine into old wineskins, not because he is wicked, but because he is wise. Capacity must be built before content is increased. That is why growth often feels demanding. God stretches you before he blesses you so that the blessing does not destroy you. There is a blessing of divine order available in the first month. Order is what turns effort into results. When God restores order in your life, confusion leaves, priorities become clear, relationships realign, energy is channeled correctly. Many people are tired not because they are doing too much, but because they are doing the wrong things. Divine order brings rest even in labor. The first month is also a time when spiritual altars matter greatly. Altars are not mystical structures. They are points of interaction between the spiritual and the physical. An altar can be prayer, sacrifice, worship, or obedience. When you raise an altar at the beginning, you are establishing jurisdiction. You are declaring that this year will not be governed by chance, but by covenant. Altars speak even when you are silent. They speak when you are weak. They speak when your faith fluctuates. Day 8 reminds us that God is a God of patterns. He works through principles, not shortcuts. Those who understand this stop envying others and start building themselves. They realize that lasting blessing is not stolen, it is cultivated. The first month is not about competing with others, it is about cooperating with God. When you align with his rhythm, your progress may be quiet, but it will be undeniable. There is also a call to spiritual intelligence in this season, to discern seasons, to recognize transitions, to know when to move and when to stay. Not every door that opens is divine, and not every delay is demonic. Wisdom is knowing the difference. Many people sabotage themselves by rushing ahead of God or lagging behind him. Day 8 is an invitation to walk with God, not ahead of him and not behind him. The best blessing of the first month is not seen immediately, it is felt inwardly. It is the strengthening of your inner man. When your spirit is strong, circumstances lose their intimidation. When your spirit is weak, even small challenges feel overwhelming. God often fortifies you internally before he changes things externally. This is mercy, because if he changes things outside without strengthening you inside, you may mismanage the change. As the days unfold, what you establish now will echo. Prayer becomes easier because you laid a foundation. Discipline becomes natural because you enforced it early. Faith becomes stable because you fed it intentionally. The enemy understands timing, which is why distractions increase at the beginning. He is not afraid of your entire year, he is afraid of your alignment. If alignment is secured, resistance becomes irrelevant. This is why day 8 is not a day to relax spiritually. It is a day to press in with understanding. To thank God not only for what he has done, but for what he is about to reveal. Gratitude in advance is a sign of faith. Expectation sharpens perception. When you expect God to speak, you become sensitive to his whisper. The first month does not demand perfection, but it demands sincerity. God is not looking for flawless people. He is looking for yielded hearts, a heart that says, Lord, adjust me, correct me, lead me. That prayer alone can change the trajectory of an entire year. When God becomes your reference point, fear loses its voice, comparison loses its grip, and destiny becomes personal. As you stand in this moment, understand that time is speaking, heaven is watching, and grace is available. The question is not whether God is willing to bless, but whether you are willing to align. Because the best blessings are not forced, they are unlocked, and unlocking requires keys. Keys of obedience, sensitivity, discipline, and faith. And when those keys are engaged at the right time, the doors that open are not ordinary doors, they are destiny doors, doors that lead into dimensions you did not struggle for, but were prepared for, doors that introduce you to versions of yourself you have not yet met, doors that redefine what you believe is possible as you continue to walk deliberately, prayerfully, and consciously into all that God has encoded within this season, knowing that every step taken in alignment multiplies impact, deepens authority, and establishes a foundation upon which the remaining days of the year will confidently rest. What makes this season even more critical is that God often reveals his intentions quietly. He rarely shouts at the beginning of a season, he whispers. Those who are loud in the flesh often miss the subtle movements of the Spirit. Sensitivity is not a gift, it is a discipline. It is cultivated by stillness, by attention, by deliberately shutting out noise so that the signal of heaven can be received clearly. In a world driven by urgency and constant information, the ability to be spiritually still is becoming a rare advantage. The first month exposes what truly governs a man. Pressure reveals foundations. When routines are disrupted and expectations are high, whatever is dominant in your life will surface. That is why God allows early tests, not to shame you, but to show you areas that need reinforcement. If impatience rises quickly, it is an invitation to grow in trust. If fear dominates your decisions, it is a call to deepen your revelation of God's faithfulness. Growth begins with honesty. Day 8 also carries the grace for internal healing. Many people step into New Year's carrying unresolved wounds from previous seasons. Pain has a way of distorting perception. It makes you interpret present events through past disappointments. God desires to heal you early so that you do not misinterpret his blessings as threats. Healing is not weakness, it is preparation. A healed heart can receive more without suspicion. There is also the blessing of renewed hunger. Spiritual hunger is not automatic, it must be stirred. Familiarity dulls desire. When you have heard many messages and experienced many encounters, there is a temptation to settle into routine. But hunger is what pulls virtue from heaven. God responds powerfully to those who are desperate, not for things, but for him. Hunger keeps you teachable, it keeps your heart soft, it keeps your spirit alert. The first month is also a time to redefine success. Many believers chase visible achievements while neglecting invisible foundations. But God measures success differently. He values obedience over applause, faithfulness over speed, and depth over display. When your definition of success aligns with God's, peace becomes your companion. You stop striving to impress and start living to please. Another blessing embedded in this season is the restoration of spiritual focus. Distraction is one of the enemy's most effective strategies. He does not always attack directly, he diverts. He fills your schedule so that your spirit starves. Focus is not about doing less, it is about doing what matters. When focus is restored, productivity increases without stress. Purpose replaces busyness. There is also grace for covenant understanding. Many believers enjoy the benefits of covenant without understanding its demands. Covenant is a two-way engagement. God commits himself to you, and you commit yourself to his ways. The first month is a time to revisit covenant responsibilities, to renew your commitment to walking in righteousness, integrity, and reverence. Covenant consciousness changes how you pray, how you live, and how you respond to challenges. Day 8 is a reminder that God is intentional. Nothing in your life is accidental when you walk with him. Even delays carry instruction. Even silence carries meaning. Maturity is learning to listen when God is quiet. Some of the most powerful lessons are taught in moments where nothing seems to be happening. Waiting seasons are not wasted seasons. They are strengthening seasons. There is also a release of grace for wise relationships. Destiny is too heavy to be carried alone. God often uses people as instruments of alignment. The right voices can confirm direction, sharpen discernment, and provide accountability. In the first month, God may highlight certain relationships to nurture and others to reassess. This is not about arrogance or isolation, but about stewardship. You must guard the environment around your destiny. The blessing of discernment becomes crucial here. Discernment is not suspicion, it is perception. It allows you to see beyond appearances and understand motives, seasons, and assignments. With discernment, you avoid unnecessary entanglements. You know when to speak and when to be silent. You know when to advance and when to wait. Discernment saves time, energy, and emotional strength. Another dimension of blessing is the strengthening of spiritual discipline. Discipline is what sustains momentum when emotions fluctuate. You will not always feel inspired, but discipline ensures consistency. Prayer, study, worship, and service become habits rather than events. When discipline is established early, backsliding becomes difficult. You build a rhythm that carries you even on days when motivation is low. The first month is also about prophetic alignment. God often releases words over a year, but prophecy does not eliminate responsibility. Every prophetic word requires partnership. You must act in ways that agree with what has been spoken. If the word is increase, you must prepare for stewardship. If the word is elevation, you must prepare for responsibility. Alignment turns prophecy into reality. There is grace in this season to confront internal resistance. Sometimes the greatest opposition is not external, but internal. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of change. These silent enemies limit progress more than any external force. God gently brings them to the surface so they can be addressed. Freedom begins when you acknowledge what you have been avoiding. The blessing of spiritual authority also begins here. Authority grows from submission. When you submit your plans, desires, and ambitions to God, He entrusts you with influence. Authority is not loud, it is established. It is felt in the spirit before it is seen in the physical. Early submission lays the foundation for lasting authority. The first month invites you into intentional living. To stop drifting and start deciding, to realize that every choice is a seed. Seeds planted now will grow throughout the year. Words spoken now will echo. Attitudes formed now will shape outcomes. This awareness brings sobriety. You begin to live deliberately, not reactively. There is also grace for gratitude. Gratitude is a spiritual accelerator. It keeps your heart open and your faith active. When you thank God for past victories, you remind yourself of His faithfulness. When you thank Him for future outcomes, you declare trust. Gratitude shifts focus from lack to abundance, from fear to faith. The blessing of peace is also available. Peace is not the absence of trouble, but the presence of God's assurance. Peace guards your heart against anxiety and your mind against confusion. When peace is established early, storms later in the year do not destabilize you. You learn to operate from rest, not from panic. As you continue to engage this season, understand that God is more interested in who you are becoming than in what you are achieving. Character is the womb of destiny. Without character, success becomes dangerous. The first month is a time to allow God to shape your inner life, to refine motives, to purify intentions. The grace to hear God clearly increases as obedience is practiced. The more you respond, the clearer His voice becomes. This is not mysticism, it is relationship. Like any relationship, familiarity grows with interaction. When you prioritize God early, intimacy deepens naturally. There is also the blessing of hope. Hope is the anchor of the soul. It keeps you steady when outcomes are uncertain. God restores hope so that discouragement does not define your expectations. Hope allows you to see possibilities where others see limitations. The first month is not merely a countdown to normal routines, it is a divine appointment. A sacred window where foundations are laid quietly, deeply, and deliberately. What you allow God to do now will speak louder than what you attempt to force later. This is why wisdom calls for patience, humility, and attentiveness. As days continue to unfold, you begin to notice subtle shifts. Your reactions change, your appetite for certain things diminishes, your desire for depth increases. These are signs of alignment. Do not ignore them. Nurture them. They are indicators that the best blessing of the first month is already at work within you, shaping, ordering, strengthening, and preparing you for expressions of grace that will manifest progressively, unfolding layer by layer as your walk with God deepens, your sensitivity sharpens, and your commitment to alignment remains firm, knowing that what is being established now is not temporary enthusiasm, but enduring spiritual architecture that will carry weight, sustain growth, and continually respond to the divine rhythm governing your journey through the rest of the year and beyond. So as this sacred window closes and the days ahead stretch before you, understand that you have not merely listened to words, you have encountered an invitation to walk deliberately, to live consciously, and to steward time with reverence. The first month has spoken, day 8 has marked you, and alignment has been offered. What remains now is your response, not in haste, not in fear, but in quiet obedience and consistent pursuit. Because when a man aligns early, he does not struggle to catch up later. He walks with confidence, knowing that foundations have been laid, directions have been clarified, and grace has been activated. And as the year unfolds, what others will call sudden will simply be the visible expression of seeds planted in obedience, watered in prayer, and guarded with wisdom at the beginning, producing fruit in its time to the glory of God and the fulfillment of destiny.